We're glad you're back, and I'm glad we're back also, because our next guest is representing something in the community that is necessary. We wish it weren't necessary, but it's really necessary for our community. And we have Wendy Asman, who is the executive director of the WomenShelter in the city of Long Beach. And I know there's been a women's shelter for quite a while, but I also know that the use has expanded, the need has expanded in making sure that women, and I think you have men sometimes, don't you?
We do.
That have had backgrounds either of abuse or whatever, that use the shelter for women and men in the city of Long Beach. And I admire you for what you do, so it's very difficult, I know, sometimes to talk about it because it's hard to hear. But tell us how long you've been involved with the Women's Shelter and what it does.
Well, I've been involved with Women's Shelter for less than a year now.
The one in Long Beach?
The one in Long Beach,
yeah.
That's correct. But I've had over 25 years experience working with that population of clients who need those supportive services as a child services worker and child protection worker. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, and really I have an opportunity now to break that cycle of violence and do some prevention work, whereas before I was doing the intervention work.
And but just tell us about the Women's Shelter. How do people get there? You know, what do you provide for them?
Well, Women's Shelter, it's interesting. Our name is Women's Shelter. We've been around for over 36 years and served more than 33,000 clients. But we actually do a lot more than just shelter women. We, as you pointed out, we shelter men as well, and there are male victims, and they come into our shelter with children. We have hotlines that are available 24 hours a day, 364 5 days a year, and we have an outreach program. So we do supportive services for people that come in and they get counseling, individual and group counseling. That's at our resource center. We have the shelter, of course, where we provide case management and move people on to places of safety.
And do you shelter them where you're in your facilities?
We have a facility, yeah, it's in a confidential location, but we do have that shelter where we provide up to 29 families beds for a night, and then they can stay up to 33 nights.
With children? With
children, absolutely. And we have a child development center as well that's attached to the shelter, and we work with children. They get their own case manager.
And what are the reasons that they're there? I mean, there are a myriad of reasons, I'm sure, but...
Well, on average, it takes people who are victims of intimate partner violence 7 times to actually reach out and ask for help before they will leave.
Right?
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people don't understand. But so by the time they want to come to shelter, most people have really made that decision that they need to get out of their situation. And the stories that we hear are unbelievable and heartbreaking. The violence that goes on in the homes.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence.
And when you say 7 times, physical?
Physical, emotional, verbal, it's all the gamut. But we have some pretty horrific stories of things that people have survived, and you know, they don't feel that they're able to leave for various reasons. And
well, they don't know how to support their children a lot.
That's a lot of the case, that people sometimes stay for their children as well. But
well, it's not good for children to see either.
It isn't, and what we find, and we have a huge child and youth services program, which you may not know about, but we do a lot of outreach and education in the community. What we're starting to see is that children who witness abuse are very high risk of either being abusing or getting into abusive relationships themselves. And so we work a lot with our children and youth.
So if somebody comes and they have 2 or 3 children, and they can stay there for shelter, do they stay for very long? I think some maybe go back.
Well, some of them maybe go back, but usually, again, by the time they're in shelter, they work really closely with us, and we offer therapeutic support, and we get them onto a safe place in their lives. So we help them onto transitional housing or to find somewhere safe to live. And their average stay is between 33 and 45 days if needed.
And so, and they're, as I say, they're with the children, and the children can go to regular school as well as the services you provide them in the shelter.
Yeah, we make sure that the children's education continues.
And tell me about the men's section.
Well, about 5% of our clients right now are actually male, and some of them come in with their children. And as awareness spreads, we're finding even more and more male victims are coming forward, because intimate partner violence really crosses ethnic lines, economic lines, everything. So victims come from everywhere.
Don't use any names, of course, but just tell us about one that you know of that bring us through the procedure you use with them.
Well, I get overwhelmed sometimes when I think of some of the stories and what people have survived. What we do see a lot of is people that witnessed violence in their own childhood. They may have even been victims in their families, and then they're moving on to abusive relationships themselves, and they're trying to protect their children. So the stories are really horrific. The physical abuse, sometimes they're beaten to a pulp. Sometimes they're just feeling like they've got no self-esteem at all. And what brings us hope is having people move on to the best place they can be and be safe.
And how is that possible when they have no resources?
It's really difficult. It's literally when people come into shelter, they just flee. Oftentimes they've got nothing but the clothes on their back. And so we're able to help them get to a safe place, but also we're able to provide them clothing and anything that they need to get going. We are so grateful for the community support in Long Beach. I have to mention that at this point, because we have so many supporters that help our clients.
How can people help?
Well, we take gently used clothing. We take some household goods if needed. We need suitcases. I mean, I can tell you a story of our clients. It's really literally when our clients were leaving the shelter, sometimes they will be leaving with garbage bags, plastic garbage bags full of the clothing on their backs. And we had Assistance League. We've got a great partnership now with the Assistance League of Long Beach. And we told them this story, and we put out the call, said they're leaving with, they don't have anything to carry their clothing out that we give them. And within 48 hours, 75 pieces of luggage showed up.
Is that
from Assistance
right?
League. And it's just, to me, that's one of the most overwhelming things. I mean, on a daily basis, we see the clients get help, get to a better place, keep their children safe, and that's what keeps all of us going at that organization.
And do they gain confidence in those 35 days, 40 days?
They do, and we have clients come back all the time thanking us and saying dramatically that we've saved their lives, literally, and in many cases we have. Our staff has.
And there's so many things in my mind because there's so many problems that you face daily, and that's hard to believe that this is so prevalent. The problems, it seems that the clothing and all of that is so essential, but for someone who has lived their whole life in fear, it takes a long time.
It really does. And I can't say enough about our staff. The staff at WomenShelter, many of them have been there many, many years. They are so fantastic about supporting these people. And our survivors are strong people, and they just need that help and support to get them to the next step. And we have comprehensive case management, so we help them everything from health needs to legal needs, and we address all of that with them.
And have you had either husbands or wives find out where they are and want them back?
Well, our shelter's in a confidential
I
location,
know
so we
that.
don't have that kind of an issue.
So you're not really found.
We're not found.
Okay.
No.
That's very good. And do the children go to school?
They do, and we also have a child development center which is attached to our shelter. So we have, each child gets their own caseworker, and they develop a plan over that 33 to 45 days for that child and get their needs met too.
Well, how many do you accommodate, like, in the program right now?
Well, we have 8 bedrooms and up to 29 beds, so at any one time, and we're usually pretty full. And then there's also our outreach, where we serve a couple thousand people a year as well.
And the outreach does what?
The outreach, people come in and they do groups. They have one-on-one counseling, and they do supportive groups, everything from parenting skills to self-esteem to helping them find a safe place as well.
So even though they're not sheltered, there's still services that help them through beyond sheltering.
Absolutely. And sometimes we find that some victims of abuse are not quite ready to leave yet, and so we support them through that process as well. So that's a huge part of what we do, is our outreach. And we also work with children and youth. So we've got a youth services team that does fantastic work. They go out into the high schools. They talk about teen dating violence, which is a huge issue right now.
Is that right?
It really is. And we're finding, again, these secondary victims. So the children and youth have witnessed abuse in their lives, whether with a parent or someone else, and then they seek out those types of really unhealthy relationships. So we do a ton of work in the high schools in Long Beach, and we really believe prevention is the key, and we have to start with our children and youth.
Well, Wendy, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. This is, as I say, it's something we wish we didn't need, but it sounds as though we're always going to need it if you're talking about teen violence.
Well, you know, we work with other agencies in Long Beach, and
Yeah.
we're part of the Long Beach
Yeah,
Violence
and
Prevention
they help.
Plan, and we really hope that prevention is going to
And I'm
to
glad
help
the
here.
community is supportive of how do they get in touch with you if they have something they want to donate?
They can give us a call and on our hotlines or look on our website.
Where do they get the hotline?
That's published on our website if they go to our website.
Okay, it's not in the telephone book.
No.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted that you're here and to know that support is available and that the community is also helping you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was
Thank
nice
you.
to see you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a good day to finding out the things that are happening in the city and what is being done about it, even though the problems always seem bigger than what we're talking about just in the short time that we have to hear. But I hope you get involved in some way with what's happening in our community and understand it better and realize that this is the soul of Long Beach. See you next time.